So no, that inspired me because I was thinking, I'd mentioned this to you, that at some birthday some years ago, there was alcohol involved. There's no alcohol tonight, but we'll go with this anyway. I did share a story at a Moth Story Hour, and I'm trying to remember what it was that I shared. And it was, to be clear, this was an open call moth. It was draw your name out of a hat kind of situation. But I wasn't the lowest score that night. So this is back in, and also thinking about Italy. So, gosh, I know it was 2008, summer of 2008. And my grandfather had died probably a year before that. And he had left some money, and just a little bit of money, but I used this as part of my money to go to Italy. And it was with some extended family, and somehow there was like 14 of us, I swear, and like 2 cars. And they let me borrow 1 car one day to go from Tuscany to Anzio, where my grandfather had been a World War II vet. He landed on the beach at Anzio. And then he was part of a group called, he was part of the 1st Special Service Forces, so forerunners to the Great Berets. And I grew up from the time I was a little kid hearing a very sanitized version of his battle. They actually made a movie about this. They called these guys the Black Devils. My brother has a tattoo. I've decided that would be great for my ministerial career to tattoo. But they were, these are rugged guys. And there was this mountain, La Defensia, on the valley leading up to Rome, which the Germans were perched on top. And they were feeling pretty confident about this location because you'd have to go straight up the mountain and be shot at to try to take it out. Except these Special Service Forces guys were the first to ever learn things like mountain climbing. So in the middle of the night, they climb up the backside of the mountain and surprised the Germans and took the fort. So I grew up hearing this version, and so I want to find Mount La Defensa. And I'm looking on a map of Italy, looking at the contour lines to figure out which is the steep side of the mountain, and I'm like, I don't speak Italian. I just like drive there alone in the middle of the country to find this mountain. And I don't know where I am, so I stop 2 pedestrians. And they're like, just cocky American that I am, just speak to them, expecting they're gonna know how to talk back to me. And they did, and it turns out they were French, but visiting family from Italy. So they're like, well, we don't know the area either, come with us to my family's house. So we go to the family's house, and they're like, well, my neighbor is a retired Italian paratrooper who has a museum that he created in his basement of all of the munitions, various things that he's pulled off the mountain. So he'll come, so I get introduced to him, and he speaks some English, and I see this little homemade museum he has to my grandpa's force in this whole battle. And he's like, but the whole family, because we're all here, we're gonna go on a trip. Do you wanna come with us? I'm like, sure. So it turns out that when you are following an Italian in their native country on these mountain roads, and I'm in a rental, and I'm terrified, but we made it to this area. Actually, they said, stop here, you can't go any farther. You're an American. And I get in our car, and then we made it up to where the side of the mountain, and we take this hike up the mountain, and there's I don't know, 15 people in this family, and there's backpacks and everything, and there were some elderly women that were at the front of the line moving faster than the rest of us. And we get to the top of this, and this was actually the twin peak from my grandpa's. There were 2 peaks, the other was Camino, and this had a chapel on it. So the elderly women, they had a mission, that's why they were going so fast, because it was their job to clean this chapel. And so they go straight to the chapel and start sweeping, and all these other backpacks come out, and of course, wine and cheese and fresh fruit, and then the sun's setting, and then there's, glorious views of sunsets, and I was just like, where am I? And so I ended up on the top of the mountain, and with these people and the guys showing me around, showing the dugouts and everything. So it was great fun. And then I had to, I made it back in time but in the meantime, but this was no cell phones. This was before you would spend the money to do cell phones on. So my family has no idea where I am. I've just disappeared for the day. And I show up back home at like 11 o'clock at night, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yes, let me tell you about this magical day that I had." And so that was my journey that I enjoyed.